So here we are then, part 10 of this ICM Leyland retriever, and the model is complete. So I thought I'd share some thoughts, some mistakes, the products I used, and my conclusions about the kit. Well, it's a lovely model. It's got some fiddly and delicate parts. Most of the parts fit really, really well. Very few seam lines at all on the individual parts, and virtually no flash. There's only a small amount of ejector pin marks, and even less where they would show. Some of the parts on the sprue, especially the wheel hubs, were mounted on very delicate edges and virtually impossible to get them off the sprue cleanly. Some parts were held by lots of sprue nibs, like the framework for the rear of the truck, and it's virtually impossible to clean them fully off. But they came okay in the end. The decals were on really stiff card. Now, this protects the decals, obviously, but it took ages to move once wet, and by that time I found them very flimsy and really soft. And I'm not great at decals, and so it made life really quite hard for me. On the plus side, they're really thin with very little carrier film. The PE was nice, the radiator grille was lovely. The badges were fine, but they were really small writing on them. And the retriever badge wasn't quite complete, but it looks okay. Mistakes wise, I got the wheels wrong. Rookie error that. I should have read the instructions more fully. I also got one of the seat boxes incorrect. I got the lid the wrong way round, and there are hinges on there that should go to the back on the tops, and there's a little hasp that goes at the front on the base of the box, and the two really didn't match up. But hey, nobody would know unless they were looking. I should have fitted the strap holders for the roof before building the cab. Those little bits of wire that I used on the front of the cab. And I should have fitted those when I took the part off the sprue rather than wait until the thing was built. So I need to think through my builds a little bit more. I need to be a bit more meticulous in reading the manuals, and maybe make some notes as I go through, so I can understand exactly what's going on. I guess like most new modelers, I just want to get on with it, and I'm not really taking my time and planning it out properly. The rear of the cab, the framework on the rear of the cab, in hindsight, I would have waited until the back was on the vehicle. I probably wouldn't have painted them on the sprue, and I would have then glued them all on and then sprayed them while they were on the rear of the cab and while the cab was actually on the model. It's very, very delicate, that section, and I've repaired them quite a few times. I'm not going to go anywhere near them now. I'm going to stay well away from them. But the finished model looks great. So let's have a look at what products I used. When I came to make a list of everything I'd used on this model, I was quite stunned. This is a list of what I've used, and no doubt other people will use many more on some models, but for me, I was quite amazed at just how much I'd used. So let's just go through them. For primer, I pretty much exclusively used Mr. Finishing Surfacer 1500 Black. I've got the grey as well. This is absolutely marvellous stuff. I thinned this down about 50-50, roughly, with Mr. Colour levelling thinner. Paints-wise, I used all XF paints, olive green, which was the base colour, NATO brown, which I used for the gas plate, dark iron, which I used for the shovel and a couple of other bits and pieces, khaki, which I used for the roof and the side curtains. Semi-gloss black, which I put on the steering wheel and on the knob on the gear stick. And X22 clear, which I used as a gloss coat. And for the bits of metal, I used 71.065 Model Air steel by Vallejo, and that was fine. All of the above, apart from this, were thinned with Mr. Colour levelling thinner, which I absolutely adore. For a matte varnish, a while ago I got this, and I thought I would try it out because there's quite a lot in the bottle, which is great. And I initially put this in my airbrush and thinned it out with Mr. Colour levelling thinner. And you know that jelly you got on the top of a really good pork pie? Well, it was just like that in the airbrush. It took me ages to clean it out. Lesson learned. So ultimately, pun not intended, I used Ultimate Airbrush Thinner. And this worked a treat. It's supposed to work with all acrylic modelling paints. So I used that and it made a really good job. And I find this gives a really nice matte finish, really good. I also needed obviously to clean brushes and to clean my airbrush, and as always I use this. I just love this stuff. It's great for cleaning the airbrush and the brushes, so that's what I use for that. Glues wise, I used, no surprise, Tamiya Extra Thin and Tamiya Extra Thin Quick Setting at times. And I also used this, which is the Flexi 5CA Black. Absolutely wonderful stuff from VMS. Really good for filling ejector pin marks. And occasionally I use a bit of activator. I like this stuff, Zip Kicker. I've had this for quite some time. The great thing about it is it's small. It's very easy to apply rather than holding a big tin. And you don't waste too much. I've used this a lot and there's still easily 3/4 in there. I used to use this all the time when I was making pens. So, you know, I have used it a lot and it's marvellous stuff. Filler wise, I've used Mr. Surfacer 1000, and that's absolutely excellent. It enables you to get in those lines, but where you want to leave a panel line, you can just come in with some thinners on a cotton bud and take away the excess, then you don't have to sand. It's absolutely terrific. And for washes, I used 2 washes. For the roof, I used this, which is Ultimate Weathering Wash from UMP, and that's an algae clay-based wash, and it worked very well for what I wanted it to do, which is great. And I also used this, the Ammo PLW Deep Brown from MIG, and the jury's out on this. Maybe it just wasn't dark enough for the model, but I made a decent job in the end. And I had some odourless thinners from AK as well to clean that up. I also used a bit of 0.5 wire and Tamiya masking tapes. And just for finishing off, I used some AK weathering pencils, and they work very well indeed. So all in all, that's all the products I used on this model. So in conclusion then, I made a few rookie mistakes, but that's how we learn, isn't it? And I'll be more careful next time. Quite a complex little model, and it is my first vehicle. It's also my first attempt at pre-shading. All in all, for my third model, I'm really quite proud of myself. It looks great, and now I understand the air pressures on my airbrush. I can get better at pre-shading. It's a lovely model with nicely fitting parts, but extremely delicate even when it's fully built. Would I build another? Yeah, absolutely. And I would be a lot better at it next time. I hope you enjoyed the build. It's my first build on YouTube, and I'll be starting my next build very shortly. I've already done a video on what that's going to be. Thanks to the new subscribers this week. It's great to have you on board. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do consider doing so. It really helps the channel. If you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you click the bell, YouTube will let you know every time I release a new video. So until the next time, thanks very much for watching. Cheerio.